Good day, and welcome to another episode of Thrown It Back with Sean Farrell. I am Sean Farrell. God is great all the time. All the time, God is great. And let's not waste no more time. Let's get right to it. So, the Portland Trailblazers, the Portland Trailblazers, were widely known as the Jailblazers, okay? And so, preparing for this Trailblazers topic, there were excerpts from the book Jailblazers, okay? And I know there is a lot more to this story of the Trailblazers becoming the Jailblazers, okay? And and reading a few excerpts from the book, I was like, I gotta get this book because I know there's a ton more than just those excerpts. Okay, there's a ton more. So I went out and bought the book. I didn't go out and buy it. I actually purchased it online, and I can't wait to dive into that book when it gets here. Nonetheless, I think the origins of the Jailblazers started when Sean Elliott hit that Memorial Day miracle in Game 2, and that pretty much broke the Trailblazers. They lost 85-63 in Game 3. And San Antonio went on a 16-0 run in the third quarter. Portland shot only 25%. They shot 19 of 77 for the whole game. Including they were 8 for 40 in the second half. And they were also outscored 43-25 in the second half, okay? And Greg Anthony actually had to apologize to the fans of Portland for the weak performance, okay? And so 24-8. Yeah, okay. So I believe it was the Spurs who outscored the Blazers 24-8 in the third quarter, including that 16-0 run I just mentioned, which is which was Portland's second playoff low of the playoffs, because in Game 1 versus Utah, I can't remember what his quarter was, but they scored only 5 points. I believe it was in the fourth quarter. Okay. And so Rasheed Wallace fouled out. Then when he fouled out, he didn't stay on the bench. He just went straight to the locker room. Okay. And so the Trailblazers lose to the Lakers in 2000. But Shaq was very complimentary of the Trailblazers afterward. He said the rivalry with the Trailblazers will last his entire career. Okay. That's what Shaq said. So for 2001, Portland bought in reinforcements. There was a 3-team deal between Portland, Miami, and Cleveland, with the Trailblazers acquiring Kemp from Cleveland, Miami getting Brian Grant from Portland, and Cleveland acquiring Clarence Weatherspoon and Chris Gatling from the Miami Heat. And also Gary Grant from Portland got acquired to Cleveland, but they cut Gary Grant. Sean Kemp, we all know during the lockout he went from the Rain Man to the Pizza Man. One of the things about Kemp was his attitude, his weight, around 315 pounds. They say his last year in Cleveland, he was late for home games. He was late for meetings, flights in Cleveland. And his $71 million contract over 4 years. Okay. Then they made probably the biggest trade ever. Not realizing it at the time when they traded Jermaine O'Neal to the Pacers for Dale Davis. Okay. So now you have Davis and Kemp along with Sabonis to try and defend Shaq. And Sean Kemp is a power forward, not a center. Okay. But Dale Davis played pretty well against Shaq in the 2000 NBA Finals. And so that's why Portland went out and made the trade. Portland had a slogan, and the help's called One Team, One Dream. The trouble started almost immediately. Kemp and Davis saw reduced hanging time, reduced roles, but Portland was 35-15 at the All-Star break. There was one game where Dale Davis played only 5 minutes and skipped the next practice. And then Sean Kemp was concerned about his playing time. Steve Smith went into a slump, and then he was benched for Bonzi Wells. Steve Smith recalls saying, "It's something as a competitor you just don't accept." But they were 35-15. Wallace was averaging 19.3. Stoudemire was averaging 14. And at one point they were 38-17. Okay. In February, because Scottie Pippen had been injured, they signed his temporary replacement, Detlef Schrempf, for the rest of the year. Then Stacey Augmon, who was starting in place of Pippen, was playing well. When Pippen missed 20 games, he shot 47%. He was benched. Then on March 5th, they signed Rod Strickland, which meant what now for Damon Stoudemire. And Greg Anthony was injured. So Portland had too many forwards and too many guards. Okay. And there was a quote in the paper that said Bob Whitsitt, who was the GM, had little faith in their ability to challenge for a title. So they lost 5 games in a row after they acquired Rod Strickland, okay? And Scottie Pippen slammed a water bottle during the loss to the Sonics and said to Dale Davis, "This guy can't coach." He was talking about Mike Dunleavy. Pippen was talking about Mike Dunleavy can't coach. And Bonzi Wells did the same thing when he slapped away Mike Dunleavy's hand while walking to the bench. Boy, you talk about a turbulent season. Ugh. Rasheed Wallace led the NBA with 7 ejections and 41 technical fouls. By April 8th, they had lost 11 of 17. A few days before, on April 5th, Sean Kemp checked into rehab, and a day later, Bonzi Wells tore his ACL. He was averaging close to 13 points, 5 rebounds per game. He's shooting 53% for Portland. Okay. And so they were playing the Lakers in the next to last game of the season, okay? They were playing the Lakers. The Houston Texans just scored a touchdown, okay? Now, back to who it. They scored a offensive touchdown, okay? So, anyway. So, they were playing the Lakers next to the last game of the season, okay? And Arvydas Sabonis flopped, and he accidentally caught Rasheed Wallace in the face, okay? And Rasheed Wallace responded to that by throwing the towel in Sabonis' face in the huddle. And after the game, Wallace said to Sabonis, "I will fuck you up." Okay? That's what Rasheed Wallace said. And Arvydas Sabonis calmly said, "I will kill you, Wallace." He said it so calmly. And then Wallace went after Sabonis, but teammates held him back. And Mike Dunleavy was like, "Let Wallace go. Let Wallace go. Let Wallace fight Arvydas Sabonis." And who knows what would have happened if the Trailblazers, who held Wallace, listened to Mike Dunleavy. Who knows what would have happened if they let Wallace go. Nonetheless, there was a joke. There was a joke when I just said Arvydas Sabonis calmly said it to Rasheed Wallace, "I will kill you," okay? There was a joke in the book that said, "Everyone left." So, nonetheless, they got swept by the Lakers in the first round, and they lost all 3 games by double digits. Mike Dunleavy was fired. Stacey Augmon was in Charlotte. Ross Strickland was in Miami. Arvydas Sabonis had retired. Okay? And they traded Steve Smith to the San Antonio Spurs. And what's interesting about how that is, Steve Smith talked about it on NBA Open Court. He said, Steve Smith was talking about it on NBA Open Court. He said he drove up to Seattle because there were trade rumors. There was trade rumors. So he drove up to Seattle to see Bob Whitsitt, the GM. And he sat down and talked with Bob Whitsitt. And he talked with Bob Whitsitt. And Bob Whitsitt said, "Oh, no, Steve, you ain't going home in a hover." The next day, Steve Smith was traded to San Antonio for Steve Kerr, okay, and Derek Anderson. And so when Smith came back to Portland with the Spurs, I think he hit like 8 threes that game, and he kept looking over at Bob Whitsitt every time Steve Smith hit a shot, and but Greg Popovich ended up taking him out of the game. But yeah, so Portland brings in a few reinforcements for the 2002 season. They draft Zach Randolph. Maurice Cheeks is hired as head coach. They acquire Ruben Patterson. Well, they didn't quite hire him. They signed him because when Ruben Patterson was in Seattle, he attempted to get his nanny to perform oral sex on him. And when the Sonics found that out, they released Ruben Patterson. And no other team was interested. And no other team was interested in Ruben Patterson. But the Trailblazers swooped in, and probably because they wanted to give him another chance, or probably because they didn't care. Nonetheless, he was charged with third-degree attempted rape, and he entered into what they called a modified guilty plea. Okay, so effectively, what that means is he got probation. Okay, and so the Portland fans were really began to let the players have it who were doing misdeeds. Okay, getting into trouble. And the fans were really turned off. Okay. Bonzi Wells, who had been averaging 17 points, who had raised his scoring average to 17 points through December. Bonzi Wells said this. He said, "We're not really going to worry about what the fans think about us. They really don't matter to us. They can boo us every day, but they are still going to ask for autographs if they see us on the street. That's why they're fans and we're NBA players." Okay. Well, if you feel that way about your fans, don't be surprised when people in the city of Portland start calling you Jailblazers instead of Trailblazers. Nonetheless, I thought I had that quote from Scottie Pippen written down, man. I don't know. Okay. Nonetheless, they finished 49-33. And actually, at one point during the 2002 season, won 12 of 13. But Scottie Pippen was pouting. There was an instance where Scottie Pippen was down on the floor pouting. Rasheed Wallace was still cursing at the refs and going after the refs. Dale Davis kicked the ball into the stands and took off his shirt and walked back to the locker room. Wallace was down to 27 technicals in 2002. But the last game of the season, which Portland won 128-120 over the Lakers. Okay. The last game of the season, Scottie Pippen got ejected because he threw the ball into the stands. Okay. It was Pippen was upset at a call. He threw the ball into the stands and the referees immediately kicked him out. So he gets kicked out the last game of the season, an overtime victory over the Lakers. In which the quote Kobe stopper and Ruben Patterson claimed he could stop Kobe Bryant. Well, Kobe Bryant went off in game one. And so I remember Tom Hammonds, who was calling the game for the NBA on NBC, along with Bill Walton, Steve Jones. I remember Tom Hammond saying the Kobe stopper got lost behind the pick, and Kobe Bryant hit a jumper, and Tom Hammond said, "Hasn't stopped much yet." So they got swept in three. Of course, Ori hits the game with hitting three in the third game in Portland. And the thing about it is, Stoudemire was actually being investigated for felony drug possession during the series, which was Mary Jane. He was being investigated for felony possession of marijuana. So along comes 2003, okay? And this is when the Jailblazers really began to take hold. This is when the Jailblazers really began to take hold. If not already, it took hold during the 2001 season. But Stoudemire was complaining about a lack of playing time. I believe he was benched for 23 games. In November, Bonzi Wells spit on Danny Ferry. Then later on in November, Rasheed Wallace and Damon Stoudemire, they got pulled over for speeding. And Rasheed Wallace said the cops wouldn't find any weed because they had smoked it all. Needless to say, the cops found weed. Okay. And I'll leave it at that. Ruben Patterson was charged with domestic assault of his wife. Then his wife asked that the charges be dropped. After Rasheed Wallace hit a game-winning shot to defeat the Golden State Warriors, Bonzi Wells and Chris Mills got into a post-game fight, which turned into a post-game brawl. And Bonzi Wells was suspended 2 games. Rasheed Wallace was fined $50,000 for going up into the stands. Ironically, 2 years later in Detroit. January 17th, Rasheed Wallace was being investigated for threatening a ref. Was suspended 7 games because obviously he did. And that referee was nobody other than Tim Donaghy. So here's that quote I have from Scottie Pippen. And the fans were all over the Trailblazers, okay? And Scottie Pippen said, people shouldn't stand for that kind of, people don't stand for that kind of behavior, and they shouldn't. That's the quote from Scottie Pippen, okay? And so, but they had a pretty good record of 32-16 during the 2003 season at one point, okay? And the Sun Sentinel said the Trailblazers are one of the league's most dangerous teams and simply not in the view of police. And then they had another incident when rookie Quintel Woods was caught with marijuana, and he was also speeding too. When the cops asked Quintel Woods for his auto insurance and ID, Quintel Woods gave the cops his rookie card as a form of ID. Ain't got nothing to say about that. Nonetheless, there was a brawl at practice where Zach Randolph broke Ruben Patterson's eye socket. Nonetheless, they made to play playoffs and were down 0-3 to the Mavericks. Nearly came back against the Mavericks. They had that game won. They took the lead a few times in the second half, but the Mavericks avoided it. The closest team to do that was the 94 Nuggets when they came back from a 3-0 deficit and lost to the Jazz in Game 7. At the end of the season, Bob Whitsitt had resigned. Scottie Pippen went back to Chicago to finish his career there. Steve Patterson and John Nash were bought in, and but same old Trailblazers. Dame Stoudemire faced drug charges during the 2004 season. Bonzi Wells cursed out Maurice Cheeks. He got fined, and then he was stripped of his captain of the team. Zach Randolph was driving under the influence. He was averaging almost 21 points and 11 rebounds per game. Then they traded Rasheed Wallace to the Hawks for Sharif Abdur-Rahim and Theo Ratliff midway through 2004. By the way, Rasheed Wallace played only one game before he was traded to the Pistons. Quintel Woods was charged for dogfighting and animal abuse. And so I believe Portland finished 41-41 in 2004. Okay. But they picked up Sebastian Telfair and Travis Outlaw in the draft in these 2004 offseason. And the team was 22-33 at one point. Then they fired Maurice Cheeks. And when they got Sebastian Telfair in the draft, that effectively spelled the end for Damian Stoudemire in Portland. And at the start of the 2006 season, Damian Stoudemire is in Memphis with the Grizzlies. So yeah. Like I said, I can't wait till the book hits here. I can't wait to read the Jailblazers book. And so, but yeah, man, I don't have nothing else to say about that except God bless you all. Thank you for watching another episode of Throwing It Back with Sean Farrell. I'm gone. God bless.